Sounds good. Hi, how are you?
Hi, good. I am
Good.
here with Chase Madison, who is a discus thrower of the number 2 throw in the United States in 2015, NCAA All-American for the University of Kentucky in 2008 and 2009, SEC champion, has thrown at the Olympic trials in 2008, 2012, will throw again in 2016, and has been a qualifier for USA Nationals and a competitor at USA Nationals for the past 8 years. Chase Madison is also kept count of the number of days that he went without a PR. And can you, what was that? What was that number again?
2,549
2,549 days. So
Yeah.
here we are talking to someone who has been to 8 USA Nationals, gone 6 years, 11 months.
6 years, 11 months, 24 days, I think is exactly what it is. But yeah, it's been a long time. I earned 2 degrees in a faster time than it took me to throw a personal best. So, yeah.
So something Chase and I have just been talking about is the vision of consistency and what that's meant to him. I think a lot of athletes go out and they want PRs and they want big things. And so Chase, can you tell me a little bit about what it is that you see, what you want when you look in the mirror at yourself? What is it that you want to get out of your career?
Right. And like we were talking, back in 2008 when I set a new personal best out at the Olympic Training Center when I was a collegiate at Kentucky, the first thing my coach, Doug Reynolds, and I talked about was, what do we need to do to repeat that? We don't necessarily need to chew off another 3 meters and try to throw 65 meters. We need to see how many times we can repeat that performance. Mm-hmm. And if we repeat that performance enough and we start to establish better rhythm, better timing, better technical pieces in the throw, then those bigger throws are going to come. And that's kind of the approach that I've taken over the past 6 or 7 years, as long as I've been throwing as a post-collegiate, is, what do I need to do on a daily basis, a monthly basis, a yearly basis, to kind of establish that better throw and ingrain those habits into my training and into my throw. And I've been probably overly patient. I've been, 2,549 days is a really, really long time. And, I could probably name plenty of people that would probably, or at least have given up on themselves after that, and just said, you know what, I'm going to start my career and I'm going to get into, I'm going to start my family and that sort of thing, which kudos to them. I mean, that's definitely their path, but, I've been stubborn enough to kind of keep going at it. And I've known that there's bigger throws in there. And, that's kind of been what I've searching for. So.
And it's paid off.
Yeah, it has. Yeah. Not in the ways that I think could pay off in the future. Hopefully this is a better year for me even after last year, but it's certainly paid off. Yeah.
So is it hard to maintain that vision of consistency when there's bigger throws in there?
Absolutely. I mean, it's very difficult, especially when, I'm not going to elaborate on, my past injuries and that sort of thing, but broken foot back in 2007, I've got 4 pins and a plate in my fifth metatarsal in my left foot. And I've had a lot of problems with that in the past. Luckily, it's calmed down over the last few years. But my training plan, on paper has been so sporadic, and even the plan that I have on paper hasn't been the plan that I do on a daily basis. So it's almost like what the success I've had is how good I am at plan B. Mm-hmm. And plan B is the things that I have to adjust on a daily basis or a monthly basis or a yearly basis, like I've talked before. Mm-hmm. And, getting to the nuts and bolts, getting down to the brass tacks of, all right, what do I need to do to be a better discus thrower? Mm-hmm. Not, what I need to do. I've had to sacrifice time in the weight room. I've had to sacrifice time on the track doing any sort of speed capacity things that I want to do. any sort of power development that I want to do in the weight room. Some of that has had to take a back seat, quite frankly, because of injuries or the foot or some low back pain that I've experienced in the past. And, there have been times where the only thing I could do was throw a discus, and even that was sometimes a struggle. So in order for me to show up on the weekends, I've got this energy, this block of energy that I can expand over, or that I can use over the course of a week, and it's got to be in the ring. So this year has been much better. My health is optimal right now. The things that I can control, I'm controlling very well, and I'm setting up for hopefully a good year.
I believe it. I believe it. Yeah. And so I'm wondering, when you were waiting for those bigger performances, I think probably a lot of young athletes can relate. They get to a place where they're making a transition and they're thinking, maybe I'm as good as I'm going to be. Maybe it's not going to happen for me. And I wonder, what were some of the questions that were going through your mind when you were in that period of waiting for those bigger throws?
That's a very good point. And it's certainly not unnatural to have those sort of questions because, like I said, in our talk previously, I've had those questions on a yearly basis, and oftentimes 3, 4, 5 times a year, where it's like, is my body healthy enough to do this? Am I physically capable to throw farther, or am I just sort of tapped out, or am I going to plateau and this is going to be as far as I've thrown? But, I've really invested my time and my resources into sort of others' perspective that I trust. Landon Evans is one that, I've leaned on in the past, like I mentioned before. He's really kind of gotten me ready and gotten my mind sort of geared towards what I need to do from a preparation standpoint to prepare for the event. And then Doug Reynolds, I'm certainly eternally grateful for his knowledge as far as what he sees I'm capable of. If I send him video, and now we're actually one-on-one since I live in Tuscaloosa now. Mm-hmm. So I work with him 2 or 3 times a week, and he's an optimist, but with me, he knows that he's got to be real. And he's very, very honest with his evaluation of me. And it's kind of believing in him, I think you're capable of producing bigger throws. It's just a matter of whether or not you want to put in the time that it's going to take and put in the reps that it's going to take to give yourself a chance. Mm-hmm. Track and field is one of those things that just because you work hard doesn't mean you're going to improve. Like, that is just not how it works. And just because you get stronger and just because you get faster and all these other capabilities that we have as athletes, just because those things improve doesn't mean you're going to be standing further away from that discus when it lands. You have to control some of the things that, you just have to be good at controlling what you can control, and then allowing that feeling of, what, if some of these things line up and I start to do these things and I don't throw further, then maybe that's just how it's going to go as my professional. Somebody's at the door.
You can get back.
It looks like UPS. Looks like UPS.
Okay.
They can just drop it off. But as long as I've always said that, as long as I'm doing everything I can from a preparation standpoint and from a mental standpoint to give myself a chance to throw farther, even if I don't, then I have to be okay with that. I have to be okay with the fact that I'm giving myself every opportunity and everything that I can do to give myself a chance. And if I don't throw farther, like if I don't make the Olympic team this year, I'm not going to define the success of my season on whether or not I make the Olympic team. I define the success of my season on how I'm preparing, how I am mentally. And, yes, it is an evaluation of how good you are if you can make the Olympic team or how far you're throwing. Yes, I'm not trying to discredit that, but I take solace in the fact that I'm using every day out there that I train as a step in the right direction. And, 5 years ago, if I would have said that, you'd have thought I was crazy. But I've matured a lot, and I've taken a lot of peace in knowing that that's my approach, and that's all I can do. That's really all I can do.
Well, I happen to know that you work with a lot of young athletes, and you help them produce some pretty big throws just from some very simple cues.
Right.
And, I wonder, what is it that you want them to know as they develop their understanding of themselves as athletes?
Especially as throwers, oftentimes the success in the throw, since it's such a technical event and it's almost like a golf swing or a gymnastics event, even, although we don't get judged on how we look and our technique and that sort of thing. The progress may not come as quickly and as early as they want it to. And since it is an individual sport, it's not like, okay, if I get faster and my 10 other teammates on the football field get faster, we're going to be a better football team. It doesn't work that way. And I see a lot of athletes that come to me and they've experienced better performances on their better volleyball teams or better football teams, and they kind of more or less group those successes into the individual sports, and it just doesn't work that way. So I have to constantly remind them that, look, you cannot define how you are as a thrower by today's practice or that one single throw. You have to invest yourself in the process of developing these better habits and showing up every day and using your brain as a sponge and allowing these things to sort of group together and, allowing time to work on your side and, like I said before, trusting the fact that when you do give yourself the opportunity, it's going to line up for you and you're going to start throwing better throws,
That's great. So the progress is never linear. It's
Absolutely
always
not. Progress is never linear, ever.
The consistency is
Right.
over time
Right.
is going to pay off.
Right. Absolutely.
You're living proof.
Yes, I am.
Well, Chase Madison, thank you so much for your time, and we are very excited to cheer for you in this 2016 season.
No problem. I certainly appreciate the opportunity to be with you today.
And if people want to contact you about throws coaching, or if they want to follow your journey to Rio, how can they do that?
That's one of my biggest downfalls is social media. I'm just not a very social media savvy person. I have Facebook, but I don't have Twitter. I don't have Instagram. I don't have YouTube or any of that. I have a blog. It's through Google. You could probably search it. It's called Chasing Dreams. I don't usually write. It's very, very difficult for me to write about my training. The Olympic sports strength coach at Iowa and I had this conversation. He's like, look, you need to turn that blog into something about your athletes. So yeah, it's kind of your deal, but make it focused on your athletes. So last year, that's kind of what I did.
Right on.
I wrote some articles about my athletes that I was training.
Right on.
But that's, like I said, it's a very, very difficult thing for me to do is talk about my training. But you look me up on Facebook, Chase Madison, or you can email me at chaselongthrows@gmail.com. I'm always open to, like I said, expanding the minds of young people that want to invest their time and energy into being a better athlete, or more importantly, a better thrower. So
Right on. Thank you, Chase.
No problem.